Hello and welcome to the first ever Recollection with me, the Heart Critic, where I look at films from my Blu-ray and DVD collection that I haven't watched in a good number of years, give my opinion, see if it's changed, and maybe give a bit of history of why I have this film in my collection. So to kick off this series, I am going to be looking at an anime classic, and the first anime film that I ever personally bought and own on DVD, and that is Ninja Scroll. Now, I bought this film in around 2005-2006 when I was about 13-14, and the actual DVD itself came out in 2004 to mark the 10-year anniversary, and was actually the first release that was ever uncut in the UK, as previous releases the BBFC actually made cuts to, specifically involving scenes of sexual assault and also for some reason images of star throwing, which I'm not sure why that is an issue, but censor boards are weird sometimes. But either way, this one is fully uncut. Now, at the time of acquiring this, my interest in anime had started to grow. I had obviously been exposed as a kid to anime through the English dubbed TV shows that I'd aired, like Pokemon, Digimon, Card Captors, Monster Rancher, even Flint the Time Detective, if you remember that one. And I'd seen more adult-oriented anime in DVD and video stores and was always curious by them. And then one day my dad bought Ghost in the Shell home on DVD, and my intrigue just grew even more. So one day we go to Virgin Megastores. I have a bit of money, I want to buy a film. I go to the anime section, and then I see this for a good price. Now, at the time, I had no idea how popular or influential or even how good this anime was meant to be. All I knew was that it sounded cool, the box art looked pretty interesting with some interesting characters going on, and obviously the biggest appeal was that it was 18 rated, which, you know, probably meant some brutal shit was gonna go down, which had young teenage me foaming at the mouth. I did, however, make the mistake of thinking that because there was 2 DVDs that this was a 2-parter, or that there was 2 films in here. So I thought, yes, 2 films, that's a bargain for this price. It was only till I put the second disc in did I realise, no, it's the same film, but just with different aspect ratios. One is in widescreen, the other is full screen. So, you know, that was fun to find out. But still, I got my friend's parents to get it to me because I was underage at the time. Took it home, popped the sucker in, and I loved it. The first 10 minutes just hooks you right into there. And from there, it's a gloriously entertaining spectacle which had action and blood and cartoon boobage, which completely appeased the hormone-ridden, excited mind of my young self. And I was such a big fan of this film that years later I ended up buying the Ninja Scroll series TV show that aired in 2003 in a nice little Ultimate Collection tin. And also I got fooled, just like many others, into buying the Ninja Resurrection OVA, which actually has nothing to do with Ninja Scroll, but was for some reason marketed as a sequel. And it's not even very good either, so whatever. But maybe I'll do videos on them in the future, but for now, let's just focus on this at hand. So I haven't actually watched this in full in a good number of years. And I think the last time was a few years ago when I was in uni, but it was nighttime and I was very sleepy, so I ended up just falling asleep and not really getting through much of it. So I've been very interested to watch it in full again and see how I think about it. Now, when I was younger, the only version I actually watched of this was the English dubbed widescreen version because A, if there was an English dub, I'd watch it by default at the time, and 2, I really had no concept of aspect ratios, and widescreen seemed like the best fit because who wants to watch a little square in a dark wide space? But now that I'm older and more wiser, for the first time I actually decided I'd watch the Japanese dub with English subtitles and also the original full screen version as it was intended to be watched. I mean, I think 4:3 is quite an underrated format anyway, and it just seemed the right fit to watch this movie on. And you know what? I still found it highly enjoyable. The actual story follows wandering samurai Jubai Kimagami, who crosses paths with the 8 devils of Kamon and is forced to do battle with them. Now, there really isn't much depth to this film at all, and there really isn't much to this story. It's mainly just a setup for the different confrontations that Jubei has to face throughout the film. But these confrontations are awesome. They are spread out nicely across the film's swift 90-minute runtime and feature lots of great action and a fair amount of spurting blood. Each of the devils have their own unique supernatural powers too, which keep the battles fresh and interesting. And Jubei himself is also just a badass. He's like one of those heroes you always want to root for, and he's just super cool. And it's clear to see why, teenage me was so drawn to him. And he also has a couple of characters who aid him in his quest who are actually quite interesting too. And this is all presented by some very good quality animation that has a good use of shadows and colour. I mean, there are certain sequences where one colour will completely dominate the scene, and it just really adds to the mood of it all. And there are just some very nice looking shots throughout this movie. And I also thought the voice acting was pretty solid in both the English and the Japanese dub. So yeah, I'd say my opinion hasn't changed much at all, and I've enjoyed it just as much. If anything, I appreciate the animation even more this time around. The only thing I will say is that there is one melodramatic bit which I don't think quite works in the film or with the characters that are involved in it. But that's just a minor gripe in a film that's still very engaging. There may not be much here outside of its action and violence, but it does its job so super well that that's just good enough for me. And it'll always be an important film for me in part of my growing love for anime and just Japanese cinema in general. So if you like some good old sword slashing bloody supernatural action, then this film is definitely worth checking out. I mean, apparently it was quite influential on the Wachowski brothers in the making of the Matrix trilogy, so it could be worth checking out just for that fact alone anyway. Either way, I still love it and think it's a wonderful movie. Thanks you so much for watching. I am the Heart Critic, and this has been my heartfelt opinion, and I shall see you next time.